6 months ago, I bought the Pixel 6 to replace the Pixel 4 XL. Now, I've had a lot of difficulty sticking with the Pixel 6 and not going back to the Pixel 4 XL because I like a lot of features on this phone. Was it wise upgrading from the 4 XL to the Pixel 6? What are the differences? Should you buy a Pixel 6 over a Pixel 4 XL? Let's get into it a little bit. Now, the Pixel 4 XL came out back in 2019. Obviously, the Pixel 6 is not the flagship of the series, that would be the 6 Pro. But it's surprising how close these two phones are. So let's talk about the differences and whether it's really worth having a Pixel 6 over a Pixel 4 XL. So it's very clear that the Pixel 6 has the more modern design. You've got the lesser forehead there with the punch hole camera, whereas the Pixel 4 XL has the full screen, but has the camera and the face unlock tech all in the forehead there. To be honest, I much prefer the 4 XL layout. I'd much prefer a full screen over a punch hole camera in a screen any day. But I know a lot of people prefer to go for the more modern look. I use modern in quotes there. So when it comes to specs, obviously the 6 is going to beat the 4 XL. It has more RAM, it has more storage, it's got a more up-to-date SoC, it's got 5G. So there's a lot going for the Pixel 6 on that front. However, they both have a 90Hz screen, which is very, very smooth on both. And the Pixel 6 has a 1080p screen, whereas the Pixel 4 XL has a 1440p screen. But when you put them side by side and look at them, to be honest, you really cannot tell a difference. The 4 XL does have slightly better contrasty colors to me. Other than that, I mean, I can usually tell the resolution difference. I'm pretty good at being able to pick that out. But between these two phones, I can't really tell that much of a difference. And I think that just shows how good the 1080p display in the Pixel 6 is, and how far the display tech has come these days. So sticking with the front of the phone, we have a built-in fingerprint reader on the Pixel 6, whereas the Pixel 4 XL has the face unlock tech. So the Pixel 6, the fingerprint reader, much better these days, much faster, more accurate, but it's still a little bit iffy at times, especially when you don't wake up the screen first. It worked fine there, but quite often I have failures and I'll have to do it a couple of times, or it'll ask me to just put a pin in. So waking up the screen and then doing it is actually, it tends to work more often. The 4 XL, just look at the phone, unlock straight away. I much prefer that system, I'll be honest. If the Pixel 6 had a fingerprint reader, say, in the power button, I'd probably prefer that, because I do like that. I have that on my Xperia 5 II. I think it's much better than an in-screen fingerprint reader. I'm not a fan of in-screen fingerprint readers. I've made that very clear on multiple videos. Many of you will know this. But I know a lot of people like it, and they see it as the more modern, feature. But I like the face unlock on the Pixel 4, and I really do hope that that's something they bring back in future, if they can maybe fit it under the screen. We're getting to that point now where we're having under-display cameras. I'd very much like to see that in the Pixel series going forward at some stage. But for me, the Pixel 4 XL, again, wins on that front. So I much prefer the screen being a full screen, and I prefer the face unlock. So there's a couple of points there to the 4 XL. So going over to the back of the phone, again, we've got a very different layout. We've got the band across here on the Pixel 6, which is pretty uniform, and I really do like that design. And they've done a good job. They've done a good job with that. The 4 XL's pretty flat on the back, though, with the camera bump, so it's not too much of an issue. It would have been if they'd gone for that on the Pixel 6, because we've got massive camera upgrades there, which we'll get into in a moment. But the main downsides for me with the Pixel 6 design over the 4 XL is that the back isn't frosted. As you can see here, I've got an Extreme Skin skin on there, which gives it a matte finish. Whereas the Pixel 4 XL has a frosted glass finish already. So The Pixel 6 just has a typical smooth glass back, as does the 6 Pro. And they've also got rid of the coloured accent button there. So again, the 4XL for me wins in design overall. So it's kind of a one-way street at the minute. I'm choosing everything on the 4XL over the Pixel 6. But like I say, the one thing that you do notice when you're using the Pixel 6 over the 4XL is that the performance is better. It is snappier. And you do notice that in sort of day-to-day use. And especially when you get into the more heavy tasks like gaming, when you're using the cameras, that tends to be quicker on the Pixel 6. So, cameras. Now, this is probably the biggest upgrade that they've made with the Pixel 6, as well as the Tensor SoC and the move away from the Snapdragons. We have a 50 megapixel main sensor on this Pixel 6, and it's a bit of a beast. Whereas on the Pixel 4XL, we have the 12 megapixel typical setup that Pixel's had for a very long time. The same camera tech, I mean, from the 2XL going through to the Pixel 5, everything was pretty much kept the same. The 4XL's camera is very, very reliable. It takes very good pictures. It still competes with the best phones out there. For the size of the sensor on this thing, Google worked some crazy magic. And I don't think they're quite there with the Pixel 6 yet. They've still got some optimization to do. And that is only going to get better in future, because I have a feeling that they're going to stick with the same camera tech in the Pixel 7 and possibly even beyond that. The Pixel 4XL sensor camera is much more, let's say it's easier to use. The Pixel 6 does have a much more shallow depth of field, so you do find that when you're getting a little bit more up close to an object, that you tend to find that some of the object is sort of blurred out, whereas on the 4XL you don't tend to get that as much. It's a very narrow depth of field on the Pixel 6 when you're getting up close to something. So for people in general, the 4XL is easier to use. It's more practical. And the disappointing thing about the Pixel 6 camera is the fact that even though it's a 50 megapixel sensor, they're binned down. The images are binned down to 12 megapixel. So you end up with the same megapixel count as you would in the Pixel 4XL. Sure, there's advantages to that, because then you're having smaller file sizes and things as well. But there's no option. There is no option to shoot in that full 50 megapixel size, which I think is very disappointing. It's very, very disappointing. It would be very, very useful, especially if you wanted to sort of crop in later. It'd be much more useful. It's something that I used to do on my Lumia 1020 back in the day, with its very large stills, is that you could crop in after the fact and still get a very nice image. So I think that's something Google should consider in future. So into the other lenses on these phones. So they're quite opposite. You've got a 2x telephoto lens on the 4XL, whereas after this, Google decided that they wanted the second camera on their phones to be an ultra wide. So the Pixel 6 has an ultra wide. The Pixel 4XL has a 2x lens. I actually use the zoom lens a lot more than an ultra wide. So the ultra wide on the Pixel 6 from me gets pretty much no use whatsoever. Whereas the 2x on the 4XL, I use that quite a lot. I think it's very useful. And I think I can see why a lot of people that have gone for the Pixel 6 Pro love the telephoto on that so much, because that thing is a beast. But unfortunately no zoom lens on the Pixel 6. So they're the main differences really on the camera front. When it comes to the front of the phone and the front cameras, pretty similar. I think the 4XL actually has a wider field of view. There's not a huge difference on those front-facing cameras, but to be honest, I tend to recommend everybody just shooting with the rear cameras, because the quality difference is quite drastic. And that's on any phone. On any phone. You can get used to it quite easily. Just practice with the rear cameras and you'll get better image quality. One thing I will say about the camera features with these phones is that the video is drastically different. Now, if you want good video, Pixel 6 is the way to go. Pixels haven't been known for great video in terms of, especially in terms of stabilization as well. If it's stabilized, the 4XL video is perfectly fine. But when you're out and about, if you're sort of vlogging, let's say, the Pixel 6 is super smooth. Like, people seem to be giving the Pixel 6 a lot of stick for its video, and I don't quite know why. I think it's just because it doesn't necessarily stand up to iPhones at times, maybe at night time. But for me, with the video footage I've taken, I've been perfectly happy with it. I think it looks really, really good, and I'll throw up some samples on screen for you. Yeah, if you want video, you definitely want to be going for the Pixel 6 over the 4XL. In terms of stills, taking photos, the 4XL is still an absolute champ. Okay, so the biggest difference between these two phones, and this is going to be a deal breaker for a lot of people, and that is battery life. Now, the Pixel 4XL has a 3700 mAh battery in there, and at the time in 2019, that was kind of inadequate. It needed a bigger cell in there. It really did. The Pixel 6, however, has a 4500 mAh battery in there. Now, coupled with Tensor, which seems to be fairly efficient in day-to-day use, compared to the Pixel 4XL, battery life on the Pixel 6 is absolutely fantastic. On the 4XL, I can maybe push 4.5 to 5 hours if I'm lucky, which, you know, isn't bad. It's usable. And if you're not a heavy user, the 4XL is still perfectly viable. But the Pixel 6, I get 7 hours plus every day from this thing. Every day. I've been hugely impressed by it. I know there's people that have been having issues with Pixel 6 in terms of the software. There has been issues with the Tensor SoC coupled with a bunch of Android 12 issues, which I think has made pinpointing the Tensor issues even more difficult. But overall, Pixel 6 is a pretty stable platform now. Battery life has been outstanding. To be honest, even going back a number of months when the phone wasn't necessarily performing fantastically, I was still getting very good battery life. If battery life is integral to you and you actually use your phone quite a lot, then the Pixel 6 is going to be the better option. Okay, so on to the last couple of points. We have a difference in price, of course, because the Pixel 4XL has been out for a couple of years and the Pixel 6 has been out for 6 months. So the Pixel 6 starts at $599, which is a very, very good price. I mean, that is one of the main reasons to buy the Pixel 6 is that they've released it at such a low price and a lot lower than what people expected. And you've also got the fact of software support. So you've got 3 years of OS updates and you've got 5 years of security updates. The Pixel 4XL, as we've said, has been out a couple of years. It gets its final OS update in October this year. So it'll be getting Android 13. And then around 6 months after that, 5 or 6 months after that, it will stop getting its security updates as well. So you've got about another year of updates for the Pixel 4XL, which might not seem great, but you can still use an Android phone beyond that if you choose to. If the hardware's still fine, it'll still work fine. The Play Store will still be supported. You'll still be able to use your apps. The main difference here is the price and whether you are looking for something short-term or long-term. If you're wanting something long-term, Pixel 6 is going to be probably the best option. It's going to be supported for longer, you're going to have better features, the cameras are going to get better and better over time. There's a lot to come on the Pixel 6 front. The 4XL is pretty much a done deal. You've got a very, very solid, consistent photo taking capabilities. Performance is fantastic, and you're getting it for a much cheaper price. Now, I got this Pixel 4XL back in August of last year for £285, and this was from Amazon's renewed program, refurbished phone. 1 year warranty with that as well, and I have to say I've been very impressed with that. Now, if you wanted something short term, that is a very, very good option, a really good option. And if you were somebody who was looking at the Pixel 6, but you've been a little bit worried about the software side of things, because obviously there's a lot of people that are talking about how buggy the Pixel 6 is and issues that the phone has been having, battery issues, such and such. I don't think those issues are as big or as widespread as people are making out. But say for instance that is something that does worry you, and you're actually thinking, you know what? I think I'd rather wait for the Pixel 7. But what if you need a phone right now? The Pixel 4 XL would be a good option because you can buy that fairly cheap. It will last you another 6 to 12 months quite easily. It's still a fantastic phone. And then you can look at getting a Pixel 7 come the winter or even spring next year. For me, it's difficult because I actually really like more of the features on the Pixel 4 XL over the Pixel 6, especially when it comes to the biometrics. I much prefer the face unlock to the fingerprint reader and the design of the phone, the frosted back, etc. But the Pixel 6 has enough features and enough upgrades to warrant getting it. And to be honest, I'd have to take the Pixel 6 myself. But the Pixel 4 XL is right there. It's right there, and it's really not as big a difference in use as you would think. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Have you got a Pixel 6 or have you got a 4 XL and you're looking at getting a 6? What's the story? Let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the video. I do appreciate it. And I will see you soon for more Pixel goodness. Take it easy, folks. Stay grounded. I'll see you soon.